Hi, welcome to toddfun.com. And what's going to be fun today? Well, we're finally getting to servicing this grandfather clock mechanism. I'll link to the part 1 video below where I just sort of go over cleaning up the case and getting it ready for this part, which is making sure the mechanism is ready to start working again. This is a 1970s clock, early 1970s clock. The mechanism here, which needs to be serviced, is made in Germany by Hermule. I think I'm saying Hermule properly. I do have the book on this as far as how to service it and how to set it in general, that is. What we're going to look at is this clock obviously wasn't working when I got it. The chains were jammed in it. I'm going to make sure that chaining mechanism was just being caused from the chain being stretched. It seemed like the chains had stretched links, and that was causing the jamming. I've since cleaned the chains and adjusted them, but they're easy to replace as well if they've fatigued in any way. If they hold their shape, then they'll be usable still. But new ones would be cleaner. So the other thing we have to look at, other than generally, is this mechanism a fully functional mechanism, is we have to clean it some. There's some older bits of grease on it, and we have to oil it again. And that is mostly today's challenge. Then there'll be some video on setting up a test jig to run it so that we get the tick-tock correct and that we get it to actually keep good time before we bother putting it in the clock. Now you can do all that in the clock. It's just that I have a garage and I have all the tools here, so if I build a rig to hold this in the pendulum, I can have this serviceable from 360 degrees in any direction. Now right now the dial in the faceplate is off. That's the front of the clock. These are the little base plates it sits on, and then the pendulum hangs from this on the back side. And that's what we're going to be looking at. Are the pivot points in good order? Are we able to grease this clock, oil this clock? You need to oil a clock every 2 years if you've got a mechanical clock like this. If you don't, what happens is these pivot points start to wear. So you get, I think I covered this in the first video, you get clock oil. This is called Liberty oil. Seemed to be about the best bottle. I'll link to it in the show notes at my Amazon store. It comes with a really long applicator. It's 2 fluid ounces, but it's more than you would need. They do make smaller ones, but the price. I can use it to oil other things. And the reason you want it to be long is you don't want to take this mechanism apart. If you leave it in the clock, you can't get to certain parts when it's in the clock. There'll be access panels on the side of the clock, and what people will do is they'll come in from the side and they'll drop oil on the shafts. They'll get down in there and they'll just dribble on the side of the shaft they can reach, because they can't get to the back side. These pivot points, which are, well, they're hard to see, but they can't get to a lot of these pivot points. And there's these what are called oil wells. And you want this clock to where you can put a little oil in an oil well like that. And it holds the oil in there through surface tension. Now, that you can't really do too easily when it's in the clock, and hence the long oiler. But that isn't a good way to oil a clock, though that's the way a lot of people oil them. The better way is to understand how to disassemble your clock, how to take this mechanism, unbolt it from inside, and lower it out and take it to the bench. Then you've got access to all those oil wells, front and back. You don't have to do the shaft oiling trick. And when you get oil in those oil wells, they actually will hold the oil for 2 years and continue lubricating that joint. If you don't oil a mechanical clock and the pivot points wear down, for the most part, this mechanism is shot. You can re-sleeve them, but that requires sending it to somebody who has the fine equipment to drill out the pivot points and re-sleeve them with some hardened metal, and then put the clock back together. So let's go to the bench and let's look at to see how this clock is doing. We'll take some close-ups of those pivot points. If they look like they're in good order, we'll clean them. This isn't a clock servicing shop, so I don't have a bath I can put this in and ultrasonically clean it. That's what you would do in a service center. I mean, it costs $1,000 or $2,000 to have a clock like this serviced. in a professional shop, because they're going to dip this in a tank, an ultrasonic tank, and it's going to do the ultrasonic cleaning, and they're going to completely clean this clock. Probably even tear it down and re-sleeve things and replace any shafts that are wore as well. That's not this. If this clock is that, it's probably just better for me to replace the mechanism. And you can buy these mechanisms for not much more than the cost to service a mechanism nowadays. Germany, the Hermule still sells these. You can still buy them. They're a couple grand, or $1,800, $1,500, depending on the model and what's in it. Now, this is a flagship model of this particular clock, meaning it's probably one of the harder mechanisms because of the gongs and stuff. A five gong clock is not very common, so I would be hard pressed to replace it, though I think I probably could. And I could get it serviced if I had to go down that road too. But I don't think I'm going to have to. I think we're going to get through it. I think it's going to work. We'll see here in the video how it looks. So let's get to the bench and get working. So let's get a closer look at those of what concerns us. And that will be these pivot points. And so there's a pivot point that you would want to get a little dab of oil in there, but we're going to clean it up a little bit and look at everything first before we bother oiling it. And there's lots of little spots. Like there's another little spot. And if this clock was wore, you would see this would be oblong. But it looks very circular still. And we'll come over and we'll look at this one. Still looking very circular. That was the main shaft on that one, I believe, the main support shaft. And you can see how this is the up. This side is up. And you can see how the oil sort of evaporates over time. You can kind of see that little woofed. And that's the oil that evaporates out of this essentially oil well that's around that shaft. Let's see. There's another one. Also still looking really good. And I guess we don't have to bother going through every one like this, but I'm going to try and clean these up as best I can before I bother oiling them. That one's a little bit dirtier. But there's a lot of them. Whoops, trying to get one in focus here. Yeah. I think we're good. Let's check out the other side. And now we're on the other side. This is the front side of the clock. Seems like we're getting a pretty good focus on all these. I will look at them really, really carefully. Now this, the main shaft, if I can zoom out for that, it'd be difficult to get some oil on back in behind here because there is a shaft there. So I will use the applicator down needle to try and drop a little bit of oil where this main shaft goes through. Simply because that also is not accessible without removing this mechanism. And you don't want to remove this mechanism in any way unless you really can service it. So it's sort of a clamshell mechanism. And if you started unhooking it, then all that stuff inside would like to just come tumbling out. We want to make sure those sprockets for the chain are turning properly. And if we can't access all the shafts on every side, then we'll put a little drop on the inside where we can reach with the needle. Starting in the 60s, they started using much thinner brass. So these brass clamshell mechanism here, these two bits of brass here that are front and back, they're thinner than most of the time, and the brass is cheaper, and that's one reason they would wear out so easy is the brass would start to wobble out. And then you'd drill them and sleeve them, but this looks almost like factory. This is a German-made clock. They might have sleeved some of the more main components from the factory. And then when you're done cleaning everything, then you want to give them all a little nudge with a little wooden stick. So you come up on them and you kind of give them a nudge, and you just make sure that there's very little wobble in there and that they haven't wobbled out their hole or wobbled out their brass or their sleeving. And I didn't find anything on this side of the clock that was bad. To note, this is the escapement one for the escapement wheel. And then this is the first cog that the escapement wheel hooks up to. Both look good here, but now let's flip over and look at the other side. So I take my wooden Q-tip and I just get a nice sharp edge with my knife. And that lets me test more of these smaller ones. Now you'll notice here that this is the main escapement wheel, and there's There's a little bit of movement in there, but not much to it. That's going to be okay, but there's no sleeve on this side. The other side is sleeved, so this is going to wear out. And there, so you can see the movement now. But this one over here, this is the first wheel that hooks up to the escapement, and there's a significant amount of wobble in there, so that should technically be re-sleeved almost now. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just make sure there's good enough oil in there, and I think you can see, let me zoom in and see if you can see that wobble. So you can see there, see how I can, that's easier to see with my eye than through the camera, but there's this, even though it's fairly good, you can definitely see there's motion in there, and that could screw up the escapement energy being transferred down through that first cog. Right now I think we're going to be okay, but if I had to do anything to service this clock right away, that'd be my first timing issue, is the clock might be jamming or not keeping proper time, because this might be getting jammed and dragging. This angle gives us a pretty good view of the main escapement wheel down there. That's still sharp looking tooth one, and then on top of there is the pivot for, as the pendulum swings back and forth, it moves that main escapement. Now that main wheel is the one that has a little flop in it, but it's the next wheel that it connects to that has the most slop. Not a good place to have any slop, but it's there. But all the other ones, sleeved or otherwise, they're pretty good. So you can see there's wobble there, but for a large shaft like that, that's not enough to be concerned with. But everything else looks good. So we're going to go ahead and run her like this. So final exam and evaluation of the only pivot points that are having a problem with my mechanism. This pivot point up here is for the Verg, essentially the escapement arbor. Then down here, this is the first gear that engages the escapement wheel. So this from top down, this is number 2. And then over here is number 3. And that's the one that engages the main drive gear. So it would be number 2 from the bottom, counting up. And these are the ones that are going to have the most wear on the clock. And now they're bushed on the back side, or they have bushings and sleeves on the back side, and they're strong. And the way that it works is if this is the rod, the gear is on the back side. So the gear, if this is the rod that you see on this frame, if the gear was in the center, you would, in torquing, it could apply equal pressure essentially on both sides. But if you were to look inside this clamshell mechanism, you would notice the gears near the back, and hence most of the torque is on the back, and hence they've bushed or sleeved the back of the arbors, where the pinions, where the pivot points are. They didn't do the fronts here and here, because there's not as much torque, I suppose, but they have wobbled out. So we've showed a little bit on the bench, but how you would normally check is you take your mechanism, and you'd hold your mechanism, or in my case I have it in a jig, and you get your finger carefully in there, and you find one of the gears that you want, so you can apply some torque on it. And we'll go ahead and zoom in now. And so I'm looking at this one here. This is the number 2 gear from the bottom. And watch that pivot point as I try and just apply torquing pressure on the gear. And you can see how much that moves. Now, is that too much? Well, one thing you can say is if it moves more than half its diameter, then it needs to be bushed. So this one, yeah, it needs to be bushed. But I'm gonna clean it good and go for a while, maybe 2 years, maybe less. But if it starts to give me problems, that's the one I'm going to go in and bush. And then if you look up at the second one, this is the number 2 down from the top, gear-wise, and I can get my finger on that one too, and give it a push, and it's less, it's not so bad. But now notice that tarry gooky oil. I've re-lubed them with fresh 100% synthetic oil, but what it does is it washes out, it just basically mixes with that tarry gooky 40-year-old oil, which is dirty, and it's going to grind these pivot points out. So we do have to run this thing through a cleaning process. That'll be video 2, how to clean a clock. But by getting my finger on that gear and just kind of wiggling it back and forth in the back while the clock's not moving, that bushing would survive. Yeah, not long, but I mean, if I tear it apart to bush this one over here, I'm going to bush them both. But those are the only two. Well, I'm going to call that the end of part 1 of this 4-part series. So you basically learned how to kind of examine a clock, decide what its condition is, whether or not you have to bush it, and essentially evaluating its functionality for the most part. You know, is it going to be a good repairable clock? Now this one's going to work. I'm not going to bush it this time, but I am going to run it through cleaning and oil and lubricate it, as well as setting it up. If it doesn't keep real good time, which it has been even now without a full workover, it might go a couple years, and then the next cleaning I can have the tools and the time to rebush it, and we can have that video then in a couple years. But there's a lot to do at Todd Fun, so we'll be entertained until then, right? It might happen sooner if the clock gives me problems. So the next video is going to be cleaning it. I'm going to do the dipping cleaning solution. We'll show how I'm going to do that, but I'm also going to talk about the other ways you can clean a clock if you don't want to go that way. So we'll have that, and then we're going to have greasing and oiling. You grease and oil a clock. We're going to show you kind of how I got mine figured out as how the best place, and it should apply to most clocks, and I'll give you an understanding of the terminology of what parts do get oiled and what parts do get greased, and how much, and how to kind of evaluate that. So that would be the part 3 video, and then part 4 video we're going to end with how to set the beat on your clock, and how to set the time so that it keeps the right number of beats per hour, and of course leveling and stuff. We'll have all that in video 4, so you can watch all 4 of these videos to get a good understanding of how to get how the best a novice can do at setting up a clock without getting a clock service involved. I mean, you start getting clock service involved, and the price of the clock doesn't justify it, and then it's not fun either. So if I went to a clock service center, it would cost me the price of the clock, so I want to just buy a new clock, if it's just a money thing. But for me, it's a fun thing, and maybe it's a fun for you. And here's just videos on how to do some of those things, and you can have fun, and you might be able to get an old heirloom working and running again, especially if I rebush and show how you can manage that. And then you might see what tools you need. I'll link to the supplies, I'll link to the tools when I do those, and you too might be able to service a clock that otherwise wouldn't be usable. So have fun. See you in the next video. Bye.